We have a special guest on that we're super excited about. Our good friend Jaden Jefferson. Jaden is amazing. He's the kid reporter, and also what happens is Jaden was made famous by he started reporting stuff. Then he got to interview Marcy Captor, and then Ellen picked it up, and then from Ellen, he got to interview Oprah and all kinds of stuff. And Jaden got to interview Brad Pitt, and Jaden's on with us right now. Hey, Jaden, good morning.
That's awesome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
How are you, man?
I am doing great. Maybe a little tired, but what can I say? I'm up and I'm up.
Yeah, you start. What made you get excited about the news business? Well, how did that even happen? What got you started?
Well, I can remember probably being 3 and watching the news. Like I never probably understood what was happening, never understood what they were saying, what they were talking about, but just something about the news business was always interesting to me. I've always loved covering stories and watching different stories, and I'm always intrigued by different things that are happening in the community. And then it's also for me another community thing. It's a service thing because I'm providing coverage to some stories that may not have gotten coverage. So it's just I just can remember just always loving the news business, and it's like I'm pursuing it full time now. So it's just a great thing, and I think it has a lot of benefits in the long term.
And then how did you get your interview with Elizabeth Warren, which kind of puts you on the map nationally and internationally, really?
Yeah, I heard she was going to be in Toledo, and of course I had to be there. I mean, everyone would be there, and she's at that point in time was just everybody was watching her. She was a very exciting candidate, but there were a lot of questions about if she could be elected. So of course I wanted to be there, and I was. But I was wondering if I could have gotten an interview with her, and her press secretary was conveniently just in proximity to me. So I asked her if that could actually happen, and she said she could maybe arrange something, but it would be very quick because, as we know, candidates, they're very busy people, presidential candidates especially. So I was able to get in a couple questions with her following that discussion.
Wow. And then Ellen, so Ellen picks up your kid reporter, and then you just got a call from Ellen's producers? Like, how exciting was that? How did that go?
Well, I believe what I can recall is that I got a message on social media, and they wanted to have me on the show for a segment. But the first series of conversations I had with our producers were done by Skype. Little did we know we'd be doing everything that way only a year later. But the first conversation took place on Skype, and we discussed, how the segment would go, some of the things that they were looking into doing on the show. And then after that, I believe we had one more discussion before we were actually on the show. And of course, then we were there in LA. But before you go on the show, they discussed kind of what you're going to be doing and how the whole segment was stacked in that way.
And then, so through Ellen, you got to interview Oprah and Brad Pitt. And what was it like interviewing Oprah? I mean, obviously, I'm sure that she's an idol of yours.
Oh, for sure. When I spoke with her one-on-one at the time, you're kind of thinking, wow, this is Oprah Winfrey. Wow, it's, but you never actually feel the magnitude of it being Oprah until after the interview is done. And especially after the interview she did with Harry and Meghan, it's like, I met her, So it's all about that, perception of that person. And it's never in the middle of the interview that you're starting to think, oh my gosh, it's Oprah. It's always after that you're like, I just spoke to Oprah Winfrey, who had her own talk show. It's just always after the interview.
Well, and then Ellen gave you your Brad Pitt interview. Ellen gave you like a studio. Like she gave you money for a studio, or gave you stuff for a studio, I remember. So
Yes.
did you build a studio in your home, or did you already have a studio and upgrade it, or how? What ended up going for? I mean, obviously took you to the next level, I'm guessing.
Oh, for sure. I didn't initially have a studio because I would never expect that I'd be spending so much time at home and doing so many interviews at home. But now I said I fully went with the studio idea. One of the things was I had to set up a little Zoom area. And this is it. But now I also have some lights set up. I got some ring lights. I got a camera to shoot different interviews. on Zoom. So I started to set that up just at the beginning of the pandemic this year when I started interviewing local business owners about how they were making it through the pandemic.
So what is your plan, Jaden? Do you want to work at NBC, CBS, ABC? I mean, what grade are you in? Are you finishing school? Like, how are you working now? Are you getting paid? What your life is fascinating. What is going on with you? All of it.
Well, it's interesting you asked that because I have a couple things that are in the works. I can't speak on them specifically, but I do have some things that I have going on right now. But speaking long term, I would say, I do see myself doing anchoring at the network level. And, I also want to get a lot of experience here locally when it comes to covering news events and anchoring the news.
Well, it shows how dumb how stagnant a local news is that someone hasn't hired you already and had you doing feature stories on kids. I mean, you should be covering great kids doing great things in this community, but 11, 13, and 24 just aren't smart enough to think outside the box like that. Demetrius, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Jaden. Pleasure to talk to you, Bubba. Quick question. All right. Now, with everything that's going on in the world today, right? And the distrust that media has right now, especially news outlets, where do you see your responsibility lies with giving out information, and what do you see are the problems that media has today?
Jesus, Demetrius, that's heavy.
I would say that, I'll answer your first question. I think that responsibility just lies in just saying the facts, just reporting the facts, as journalism has always been. And some organizations, unfortunately, have shied away from that and have gotten and overcomplicated it, especially cable news outlets. I don't really watch cable because, it's a lot of opinion and I'm not getting the facts directly. I watch more local and network news. So I think my responsibility really is to just give people the facts and let them come to their own conclusions. That's what journalism is. That's what it's supposed to be. And it seems like that line of journalism and opinion is starting to, it's eroding, and people aren't really, able to tell the difference between a news story and an opinion piece. So I think that, that's where it's my job to ensure that they do understand the difference between a opinion piece and a news piece. There's a contrast there. You just have to find it. And I think that the other thing is that, with all of this distrust that is happening right now, I think people have reason to be concerned because they most likely were watching a lot of cable news the last 4 years, because people were interested in what happening with the Trump presidency. People were, so intrigued by what he was saying, what he was tweeting. And in the midst of all of that, a lot of cable news outlets were, they had their anchors that were discussing what the president said in their correspondence. But every now and then there would be a comment or a slight opinion about the president. So, we just need to ensure that now moving forward, that journalism doesn't make the same mistake of just giving out opinions when reporting on serious hard news stories. And I would say local news does an excellent job of doing that, of just giving you the facts, because I don't see Jeff Smith or Lee Conklin or Diane Larson telling me what they
look
think
at you name dropping.
I know. He's
look at you name dropping, Jaden.
I'm surprised, Jaden, you didn't say the views expressed by Andrew about local news is not necessarily represent the opinion of Jaden Jefferson, because I don't want to hurt your chances. So I will say it. Anything I say has nothing to do with Jaden. Obviously, he's just a guest on the show, but I do think they are buffoons that run these stations. So Jaden, you want to? What are you doing today? Like, are you covering local stories? Are you covering national stories? Are you doing a mix of them? What interests you? What is your lane right now for yourself? I mean, obviously, you're still going to school. What grade are you in? How old are you?
Well, I am 7th grade, and I am 13. Just turned 13 on February 16th. So, so it's a lot happened within the last few weeks. But I'm focused on covering the local stories and the local aspects of the pandemic. As of course, vaccine eligibility is soon to be expanding to those 16 and up. So I look forward to interviewing some of those people that will now be eligible for the vaccine with this expansion that Governor Mike DeWine announced just a few weeks ago. So, but today the mayor is getting his COVID-19 vaccine, so I'll be covering that.
Jaden, real quick question. I know they're going to be expanding it to 16, and you're only 13. Will you be taking your mother's mascara pen and faking a little preteen mustache so you can get vaccinated?
You know, I'm just going to wait for my turn in line, but I can't
Good for you.
tell
Good answer.
how, just how excited and how much I anticipate getting vaccinated. I don't see it as something that you just wait and you just wait until you're eligible. Like, I look forward to getting the vaccine because, how are we going to get back to some form of normalcy without getting the vaccine? And how are we going to protect those most vulnerable without it? So I think that just getting the vaccine for me is, a responsibility for my community. And it's also some self-respect for me. So, ensuring that I'm also protected from this virus. So I just look forward to being able to get the shot.
Go ahead, Tifo.
How's a 13-year-old more mature than me? Seriously.
No, dude, seriously.
This is very disheartening.
I know.
When I was 13, I was eating cold SpaghettiOs out of a can while I snuck my friends in and out of my house. And Jaden's a full-on reporter.
Yeah, I really want to thank you for making me look at my kids like, what the hell are they doing?
I have two.
So
get to work, kids. Get to work.
Yes, exactly. They're being ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, Jaden, you said about covering like the mayor today. You're 13. How are you getting the stories?
Well, you really have to.
I know a guy who's got a van.
I used to have a school bus, but I don't anymore. So please don't ask me.
Yes, I did hear the story. Yes.
The whole story, Demetrius.
Super sorry.
I would say you have to be persistent in anything. That's really what journalism is about being persistent and trying to get those press releases and get information about stories, because initially I was not going to be taken seriously with just a camera and my grandmother taking me around the city covering different news events. You have to in some ways prove that you're there and you're serious about what you're doing. So it took me a while before I actually got on the city's media list in order to cover those different events that you see on the news every day. So I wanted to be there. I wanted to be able to tell those stories. So it's about persistence, and it's also a lot about, proving that that's your purpose and that's what you're there for and that you're taking your job seriously. So it's all about that. And another thing with journalism is that a lot of times, when you're going to be calling to schedule an interview with someone, or you're going to be calling in advance to cover a story, it's difficult not having a organization behind your name. I can't just call someone and say, I'm Jaden Jefferson from CBS News. I have to say, well, I'm just Jaden Jefferson and I'm a student journalist in Toledo, Ohio, and this is why I should speak to so-and-so. It's not as appealing, so people aren't likely going to respond. So you really do have to be persistent. And now I've learned over the last few months that you really do have to name drop. You have to link your social media so people can see that I'm a legitimate person. And that's what I do.
And if you need to say, hey, I'm Jaden Jefferson with Andrew Z in the Morning correspondent.
Do not say that, Jaden.
Do not say that.
That closes many doors.
And then
me in the morning.
And Jaden, I would just think next time, just have your grandma call. Like, when's the last time somebody didn't do what your grandma told them?
Yeah,
like,
grandma's always right.
Yeah. Like, I'm on the phone and I want to talk to you because Jaden wants to talk to him. And if I don't speak to him in 5 minutes, I'm driving down there.
Yes, Grandma.
Yes, Grandma, for sure. We'll get him on the phone. Now, Jaden, I just want to say that I think a great lane for you, honestly, is telling kids stories. Like, we don't get enough of those, and I think that that's great for you. You're in a unique position to be able to do that, and I would love for you to just tell everyday kid stories, and because life is different for you guys than it was for us as 13 or whatever. And I think if you get into that lane, I think that really is going to give you something unique from everyone else. I just my suggestion. The other thing was
just his opinion. Oh, yeah. And we would suggest that you keep doing what you're doing. It seems to be pretty successful. The fact that somebody here just looked at a new car and tried to give it an alignment doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so Jaden, the other thing was what you're going to school full time? Do you go to school? Do you homeschool? What do you? How do you? What do you do? Yeah,
he legally has to go to school.
And go to school.
I said, does he go to school? Does he homeschool? How does he cover?
Housing it. Come
go
on.
to school.
Well, as of right now, I transitioned to in-person learning a few weeks back, so I'm now 100% in classroom and getting that in-person instruction. But initially during the pandemic, of course, I was on Zoom. But one of the benefits of that was that during breaks, I was able to get like a lot done and able to produce a lot of stories because I have all this extra time. So when I'm not doing homework or additional assignments that I didn't get to complete during those 8 hours I was in school, I'm able to do interviews with people. I'm able to edit some pieces and put some things on the web while while I have some time to do so. So, the pandemic has definitely, been a challenge for sure, but it's also, been proven beneficial in giving me this additional time. And I think that's been the case for a lot of people, a lot of home projects that they've been putting off for a very long period of time. Is it
hard to sit in class when you got the guy on the left of you shooting paper footballs and the guy on the right of you shooting spitballs, and you're preparing for your next interview with Ryan and Kelly, and you're like, what am I doing here? What is going on right now? I mean,
there are times that, I'm just in class and it can be something simple that someone said, and they said they maybe heard about COVID-19, and the little journalist in me is like, where do you hear that from? So there have been lots of times where I've been like going like, did I really just hear that? Like, what?
Wow. You know what?
Well, I have a question for Jaden.
Oh, wait, go ahead. Demetrius, your comment, and then Donnie.
Yeah. Jaden, that's you will find that when you have access to information, that information makes people who are uninformed look dumb.
I think the pandemic has proved that. There are a lot of people that
Jaden's getting savage.
That I've known, we've known as a family, and we're just like, they don't wear a mask. We're in a one-time pandemic and they can't wear a mask. So the pandemic has definitely exposed a lot of kinks. And different people that we know and some people that we don't know. So it's just the pandemic is definitely kind of, exposed that. It exposed what was already there.
Donnie P.
Yeah. So my question, when you're not going to school, when you're not working, what do you do for fun? I don't know, because you seem like a really busy guy. What do you still have time for Roblox or the like? Like, what do you do for fun?
I don't play video games, although I do like to stream different movies, shows on Netflix and Hulu. As of recent, I watched this documentary that ABC News produced about the GameStop saga that I still don't understand to this day. That was just
you and me both.
No one does.
I know nothing about what happened. I still don't know, but I watched the documentary and that was fairly interesting, about how that actually happened and why people would even invest money in a failing company. But in the end, it worked out for them. So, that was quite the story for me.
So a news guy, a kid news guy in his down news time watches news documentaries.
Makes sense. I thought that's where you would go.
Yeah. Now, what about what about the lady department, Jaden? What are your thoughts on females?
Not interested.
No.
Friends only.
Friends only. Okay. Well, good for you.
That's a good idea.
It's a great idea. Go ahead, Tifo.
So I just wanted to ask, since you are back in school and everything, like, do your fellow students know what you do as your side hustle there? What has been their reaction?
Yeah, good question.
Yep, I do. Everybody pretty much knows what I do and knows about different stories that I cover. And there are times where I'll have a story scheduled to be posted while I'm in school. And my friend who's probably on YouTube will just turn around and say, Jaden, did you just post a story about the vaccine while we were in class? So, but to be clear,
do you ever get school administrators or teachers, like, they want to talk to you, but they're like, off the record first.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes,
Mrs.
there are
Johnson, Mrs. Johnson's got a drinking problem, Jaden. You didn't hear it from me. Go ahead, Dimitri.
There are some stories that I even discussed with some of my teachers. They're like, I saw you covered this, and I was like, yeah, so I'm able to have lots of discussions about some of the things I cover in Toledo because there's never a shortage of news in this community.
That's true. All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I can only imagine how well your school is run because you go there. I can only imagine how strict they are to COVID regulations. Because honestly, if I saw you poke your head in the teachers' lounge, I would tell everybody to shut up. Shut up.
There are times where I'll be in the middle of a class or following a class that a whole bunch of people are going to look at someone's phone and they're getting all close, and I'm like, that's why I wear 2 masks. I can't keep.
That's why I wear 2 masks.
One for you, one for me.
Well, Jaden, I know you.
Pandemic. I've always been the person who's kept to myself, no discussions. The pandemic has definitely been a benefit for me. I'm now I have an excuse to just stay where I am and stay as distant away from whatever this person is doing. So it's I'm really I have all the protocols in place. So. The 2 masks, I make sure that I get my own table to sit at, so, I just don't want it.
Go ahead, Gina.
Jaden, I know your mom is probably sitting close by listening, so I want to tell her, good job, Mom. He is an amazing kid. You have done an excellent job raising him.
Yes, breaking news.
And if you want to start an academy for adults, I will unfortunately sign up.
I will sign up.
I will be your
Or if you
first.
want other kids, I have 5. You can train mine. Take mine.
Jaden, it's been a pleasure, man. I know you got to get to school, so we got to let you go. But
I'm on spring break.
Well,
Jaden, we would love to continue talking to you, but some of us need to cuss. So it's
Demetrius has grown-up things to talk about.
I would.
Yes.
As much as I love looking at a kid that makes my kids look like used cars.
Oh God. Okay, so we and plus we have to make time for our newsman Ebenezer Bushrod, who
because we do a segment about what's going on in the stands.
Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, all those.
Anything that ends in stand.
Just the facts.
Jaden, you're amazing. Of course, they can find you on social media. It's Jaden Reports, correct?
Correct.
Jaden Reports, 13-year-old kid journalist, Jaden Jefferson. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Awesome.
You're making look. I think all the kids today are just are the worst, but you're the one bright spot. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Bye, Jaden.
Bye,
Thank you
Jaden.
so much for having me.